Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Quack&Co, the channel where everything is 10 minutes or less all the time, every time, and this is 5 strategy tips for Cthulhu Death May Die. Cthulhu Death May Die is a game of, well, going insane. It's a game of taking down Cthulhu, of punching him in the face as you wander around this dungeon-crawling adjacent game in which you'll be rolling dice, attacking all the various enemies you'll be dealing with, trying to ensure you don't die or trying to ensure you don't go mad, all while trying to accomplish the specific goals of the scenario, disrupting the ritual, taking down the Elder God, and trying to ensure you don't die along the way, that you don't lose the game along the way. And to that end, these scenarios range in their difficulty, and my number one piece of advice is going to be roll better. Well, not really. You don't really have as much agency or control over that. You do have control as far as using your stress to pay for that, but that's a different conversation. Let's talk about how you can win this game more often, which honestly might ruin the fun for you a bit, but don't worry, the game is hard enough. This is a game where I managed to win multiple scenarios in a row, and I managed to lose the same scenario 4 or 5 times in a row. And so to that end, if you are having trouble winning, whether it's in general or whether it's a specific individual scenario, here are 5 tips to make that process a little easier for you. Number 1, and almost on the obvious side, is embracing the madness. You see, in Cthulhu Death May Die, one of the things that will happen in the game is you have this madness track, and as you go up the track, you will unlock more abilities. The downside is if you eventually hit the end of the track, you'll also die. Not as good in the dying part, good on the extra abilities part. Being a little bit too afraid to move up the madness track will result in you being not powerful enough to execute on all your abilities. Now, the downside and the thing to manage is going too insane too quickly means you'll die and lose a scenario no matter how powerful you are. And so there is a push and pull, there is a give and a take, but you won't know how far you can push that line until you've started to dabble over it. You won't know how much is too much until you've had too much happen to you a few times. Lose a few scenarios by going too insane, that's fine. Then you'll know how to start pulling it back a bit. But if you never push the envelope, you'll never know how much money is in the envelope. I don't think those two expressions actually go together, but you get the general drift of what I'm going for. Embrace the madness. Do not be afraid to roll those tentacles, to even use your stress to get a few more tentacles out of the roll so that you can have, well, more powers, more abilities, more opportunities in front of you. Number 2 is try to end every turn with 2 stress available. Generally, during the course of the game, you're going to be using your stress for a variety of things. You're going to be using your stress primarily to re-roll dice. Some things will give you consequences towards them, but one thing that's very, very relevant is in each of these scenarios you're going through, in each of the episodes, you're going to have a whole bunch of cards that you can get your hands on. The downside is many cards, consistently across the board, regardless of what scenario you play, there is a very common number in those cards in which you have to have 2 stress, lose 2 stress, and you claim the card. This is going to be in the investigate or fight phase, where you're going to investigate and draw a discovery card if you're in a safe zone, which you're not always in, so it's not always relevant. But when you are, having those extra cards can help. But being in a safe zone, actually having the opportunity to draw a card and not having 2 stress available, not only will you not get something good, sometimes you'll get something bad because of it. Try to consistently end your turns with 2 stress available, more importantly, if you are actually in a safe zone. If you're not in a safe zone, if you have enemies, it's a different conversation. But if you're ending in a safe zone where you will be able to discover a card, have 2 stress available at the end of your turn. Now, once in a while, there are cards that require 3 stress, but those are more the exceptions, so I'm not going to cater these strategy tips around that. Have 2 stress when you when you investigate a discovery card. It means you have a higher chance of having more abilities throughout the course of the game. Number 3, take advantage of stealth and dragging enemies around the board, dropping them off along the way. This is something I consistently see underused when I play with people who play Cthulhu Death May Die. There is a stealth mechanic. One of the abilities you have on your characters, and all the characters have a top level ability that is uniquely their own, and 2 other abilities from a shared pool of abilities that all the characters have together. One of those abilities is stealth, and having a character with stealth on every single team I find is essential, because that character has the opportunity to walk into a zone, dragging a character with them, and then walk back out, leaving the character behind. It's the only real way that you can manipulate where the enemies go past just hoping they follow you or don't. You can literally pull an enemy with you because by default the enemies follow you. A normal character wandering around the board has enemies following them, period. If you have stealth though, you have the opportunity to choose where and when they stop following you. You wander into the room clumsily and then you kind of activate your stealth, or you just simply slip into a corner and wander out, and now they're stuck in a new zone. They're no longer with your friends, they're no longer with you. You have managed to pull them around the board. Use the stealth, because people I find consistently, they use stealth to get away from enemies. So this enemy over here, let's just use the situation or whatever. Over here they have, I'm not going to try to paint the picture over here, but they have a character, they use stealth, they wander out, they leave the character behind, ta-da, done. What I find characters don't do is they don't necessarily use it to advantage, using stealth, moving upstairs, moving back, dropping that character off along the way, and ending in this zone. What I've just done is I've manipulated where that character went, and that character is now in the other zone with that character. That character on their turn is going to go ahead and hit them in the face, which is always very helpful, and I've managed to move along to the one zone I wanted to. I had 2 extra movement, and so I used it to my advantage, dropping off enemies along the way. Use stealth not just to get away from enemies, but to choose how enemies follow, where they go, when you drop them off along the way. Stealth is a huge component in your ability to manipulate the board to your advantage in Cthulhu Death May Die. Speaking of team composition, the other thing I would say as tip number 4 is to always have at least one heavy hitter on your team. Now, the heavy hitter can vary in terms of what you're doing, but again, going back to those common pool of mechanics, you'll often have Arcane Mastery is a big deal. Arcane Mastery gives you the ability to, as you roll dice, to utilize arcane symbols as hits, and more importantly, as you level up, to get 2 hits per arcane symbol, which is insane. It's amazing. There's also going to be the gun guy, who are marksman, who can shoot into adjacent zones, and again, level up their ability to roll more and more extra dice and to get extra attack action. And then there's brawling. Brawling that as you level up, you'll be able to inflict a melee hit on every single person in the room, not distributing your hits, but dealing them all to everyone. All of those 3 abilities can be incredibly impactful, and they become more impactful when you combine them. If you have Brawling with Arcane Mastery, if you have Marksman with Arcane Mastery, you have an incredible heavy hitter on your team, and having at least one heavy hitter is important. Cthulhu Death May Die is not a game all about punching Cthulhu in the face, it's about a bunch of other things, but punching Cthulhu in the face is part of it. Punching his minions in the face so that they're not in your way is part of it too. Having at least one person who can deal it out is important in your team composition. And then lastly, when you realize a character is bound to die anyway, they're low on health, they're running up the insanity track, don't always try to play it safe. Don't always try to recover and stay alive. Sometimes it is just as important, if not more important, to use that fact that you're going to die anyways to your advantage. Get that extra attack in. Get the 3 extra attacks in. Instead of getting a little ping and then healing, recovering, staying safe, sometimes go out with a bang. Walk into Cthulhu's zone, go take your heavy hitter, walk in, deal 2 or 3 attacks all in one go, completely tanking him down to his very last level, and yes, he's still alive, but you still have 2 teammates on the board who can finish the job for you. Sometimes trying to stay alive at the end of the game when the Elder God is on the board and things are escalating to a finish, sometimes staying alive and playing it safe is the wrong move. You are using precious actions to not advance your win condition, but rather watching as Cthulhu continues to harass you, continues to take you down, and continues to start getting ever and ever more damaging effects from all of his cards that completely destroy your ability to actually win. Sometimes going out with a bang is the right way to do things, and not only is it the right way of doing things, more importantly, it is thematically much, much more fun. When I'm playing Cthulhu Death May Die, having that one character go out in an absolute blaze of glory, having 2 or 3 characters die, and having one person left on the board to stand over Cthulhu's dead body, and to have that satisfaction of not just winning, but winning on the very cusp of everything. Winning with watching everything around you fall to shreds, watching the world burn, but you've taken down the Elder God, and you did so, not just effectively, but in style. And those are my 5 tips for Cthulhu Death May Die. There are many, many more ways to approach this game. There's building a team comp to suit the specific scenario. If you lose a scenario, build a team comp. But now I'm starting to get into 6 tips, and that's not the point of this video. 5 tips as far as how you can get better at Cthulhu Death May Die, about how you can try to win when the odds seem stacked against you and something is continuously beating you down. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Quack&Co, where less time watching means more time playing.